With the green one, huh? Is it? Yeah.
Voilà.
Okay, thank you very much, Pierre, for your invitation. What I would like to do this afternoon is really to leave to Sol the possibility to explain to you what will be another framework if we could put in place one. What I would like to do is to stay within the BEPS framework and say, okay, let's assume, as economists like to say, let's assume that BEPS is working, right? It's working nicely. That in the next room, they finally found an agreement on profit split methodology, and that everything it's fine. Let's assume that. Even if all these countries achieve these results, it won't be enough to fight aggressive tax planning. I think that six more supplementary conditions are necessary if we want to be able to tackle aggressive tax planning. The first one is to strengthen the tax authorities. We will have country-by-country reporting informations. We will have automatic or spontaneous exchange of tax ruling, etc., etc. A lot of informations will come back to the tax authorities. Now, the fight against aggressive tax planning doesn't start with that. I mean, doesn't end with that. It starts there. If you want to be able to deal with this information, then you need people in tax administration. But the big problem is that we don't have these people. If you look very quickly at this table, I mean, even if you don't see all the countries, all you see is the minus sign, right? In every country, we've lost a lot of people between 2008 and 2012, right? We've lost a lot of people. Funnily enough, if you focus on Luxembourg, it's one of the rare countries where tax inspectors, the number of tax inspectors have been increasing by 2.9%. I don't know why, I mean, with they need tax inspectors in Luxembourg.
What about Hungary?
Hungary as well. I mean, I guess so. Maybe there were one people, now they're 1.5. But
right-wing government.
Sorry.
With a very right-wing government.
Yes. It's from 2008 to 2012. So that may be the point. So first of all, we need people in tax administration to be able to deal with all this information coming from all over the world. Then the second condition is to set a goal to reduce tax losses, a goal which should be ambitious, transparent, but also realistic. If you go through the European Parliament's work on this issue, you find a lot of people, a lot of texts saying that we should be able to end aggressive tax planning by 2020. I think it's too ambitious. You all know that country-by-country reporting, automatic exchange of information, all this will start in 2018, 15. We'll have 2 years to see how it works or how it doesn't not work. In 2020, country-by-country reporting will be seen again by the OECD. So we'll try to correct, to find some hole in the basket, try to see how we can deal with all these problems. So it will really start in 2021, 22. Let's assume that it's work again. I mean, I think it's not before 2025 that we will be able to see if this new framework is bringing some results or not. So let's try to say that we will have done most of the work by 2025. And I think that working and trying to have a goal is better than the alternative, which will be to try to establish lists of tax haven and see if this country are moving or not. That too much political interference. You see what happened to the Green Party in the European Parliament when they tried to have a special commission of inquiry on Luxembourg. It was impossible to do that. I think if they had put an inquiry commission on KPMG, that would have been maybe more accepted by the other country. European countries doesn't like to organize a special commission on other European countries. If you try to draw a list of tax havens within EU, you will never be able to put Ireland, Luxembourg in it. So you can make lists, there are short lists, they are emptied faster than they are filled. So it's a real problem. Third condition, a regular report in parliaments, as Sol could explain to you, and he has explained in his fabulous book on corporate taxation. All this started in 1920 in the Société des Nations, in the League of Nations. And we had to wait for 100 years for the international community of states to try to build another framework. If we find holes in the basket, we don't want to wait for another 100 years to be able to fill the holes. So I think we need that in each national parliament, in the US Congress, in the European parliaments, the MPs should be informed every year during the fiscal debates on what happens. You know, how many information we did receive, how many tax receipts were coming back, etc., etc. The list is non-exhaustive. Every one of us could think of what could be the best indicators, but we need to mobilize the politicians, the MPs, every year. Within Europe, I think that we could include this in the procedure of the European semester. You know, when the European Commission is looking at the different budgets in Europe, we can say, okay, we'll have a look at your expenses, but also on the side of your tax receipt, have you done really good work to try to recapture what was lost by aggressive tax planning? The fourth supplementary condition is to protect whistleblowers. We know that from UBS, from HSBC, etc., LuxLeaks, we had people who were fed up with the way their company was working. They give journalists information. So we have to protect whistleblowers in three ways. First, we have to have the largest extent of facts likely to be reported, the extent and the diversity of sectors covered by the legislation, and the scope of persons eligible to the process and the protection of the law. We don't have anything in France, we don't have anything in Europe. I know that there is one socialist MP in France who is now preparing a new law to be presented next September. Will be quite large, quite important to try to establish within France a good protection to whistleblowers. Beware of one thing. We had the experience in France. Maybe it will be the same in the next few weeks or months in the European parliaments. The definition of business confidentiality protection could be quite large, and it could be an obstacle to any legislation protecting whistleblowers. Fifth condition, act against the practices of some legal professionals. An effective policy against tax havens should directly address this problem of intermediaries, people, audit firms, tax experts, lawyers, etc., that promote all their use. I think that, of course, everybody here knows that LuxLeaks is tax rulings and a problem from Luxembourg, but also a problem from KPMG and all these big four people. I think that once you got them with their hands in the jam pot, you should fine them very heavily. You should advertise for the fine, and maybe we could imagine sort of rating system, AAA, AA, etc. As far as you're taken working as an intermediary and facilitating aggressive tax planning, you may lose one of your rates, and at what point maybe you wouldn't be able to work with national or local administration, or maybe you won't be able to work anymore with listed companies. So that could be very deterring, I think, for these professional intermediaries. Then, sixth point, we have to remove the banks from tax havens. We had first a report in the summer of 2008 from the USGAO saying that most of the toxic financial products within the US banking system were located in the Cayman Islands. If you look at Northern Rock, the first UK bank which almost collapsed in the autumn of 2008 and 2007 already, if you look at Northern Rock accounting, in London, you don't see anything. You have to go into Granite, the subsidiary registered in Jersey, to understand that this UK bank had a huge short-term indebtedness that was going to bring it down. Same for Bernstein's, the American bank in the spring of 2008. You have to look at the hedge fund subsidiaries, located half of them in Dublin, half of them in the Cayman Islands, to understand that they made huge bets that will bring the bank downwards. Of course, just in passing, remember that all the people who brought money to Bernie Madoff were located mainly in Switzerland, Luxembourg, and the British Virgin Islands. Tax havens did not cause the subprime crisis. They were facilitators of the subprime crisis in every aspect. Last year, you know that the European Parliament asked for the European banks to give, for each country where they are present, the turnover and the number of employees. If you just divide the turnover by the number of employees, you've got a sort of mean turnover by per employee. And you can check for different banks where are the most productive employees. And for the French banks, it's clear, it's Ireland, right? For one of the French banks, you even got, for one of the French banks, the Irish employees being 11 times more productive, right? So the only other study I saw within Europe is a study done by WEED, the Dutch NGO for Deutsche Bank, and the main country is Luxembourg, and the guy from Luxembourg is four times more efficient than the others. Now I would like to present to you what I consider as a very frightening graph. You've got in blue, this is for the Cayman Islands, right? These are figures for the Cayman Islands. In the blue, you've got international assets, all the financial assets coming from the Cayman Islands and going to the rest of the world. In red, you've got all the money coming from the rest of the world and going toward the Cayman Islands. Typical graph for tax haven. The two curves are quite close. Even for the last few years, you cannot distinguish them, right? It means what? That everything which comes in comes out. You don't leave your money in the Cayman Islands. A few money in the Cayman Islands, it goes out very quickly. Now, you see that from 2000 to 2004, and then the curve is even sharper from 2004 to 2008. You see that the Cayman Islands were included in all the mechanisms which brought a lot of money to the US to speculate on the subprime toxic assets. Then, if it's the whole story, as soon as Lehman Brothers failed, you should have a huge decrease in the amount of money going through the Cayman Islands. You don't see that. You get a small decrease, but it stays stable, it increases again, and the real sharp decrease is the summer of 2011. Why? Why is this very period the moment where the Caymans, the international inflows and outflows of money in the Cayman Islands starts to really decrease? And that the really frightening graph actually is this one. If you focus really on the summer of 2011 and until the December 2012, then you don't take all the assets going out from the Cayman Islands, but only the loans. And you don't take all the liabilities, but only the international deposits going to the Cayman Islands. And the green line below is the loans made by US money market funds to European banks, right? Okay, the level is quite different, but the slope of the curve is absolutely the same. Now my interpretation is just an intuition. It's not a demonstration, right? It's just an intuition. Is that European banks, and especially it's big for French banks, are financed by the US shadow banking system through the Cayman Islands. It means that this tax haven, it's not only a tax haven, it's not only a purpose of tax issues, it's a country where European banks can have a lot of indebtedness through an opaque territory, tax havens coming from opaque people, the US money market fund, the US shadow banking system. And if I'm right, it's quite frightening. It means that tax havens are not only here for tax issues, but they are at the heart, at the core of the financing mechanism of the European banking system, and it's quite frightening. No, it's the other side, the other way around. As a conclusion, firms multinational firms are not only looking at what is happening, BEPS is working or not, and the states are trying to recapture some tax receipts. No, firms are striking back. I think they're following three strategies. The first one is to try to influence BEPS. Last year, Pascal Saint-Amand, during a webcast, showed us, that BEPS, the OECD people are proposing some new thing, and then everybody can answer. And then last year, Pascal Saint-Amand gave us some figures about who is answering. If you look at, I don't know if I can, no, I can point with to show you exactly, but if you look at the total of responses, answers coming from business lobbies, from multinationals themselves, from legal accounting professionals, you got 90% of the people commenting the BEPS proposals. NGOs, BEPS monitoring group, is 5% only. Academics, they don't care about the issue, 4%. As for an economist, I mean, bringing some comments on that is completely useless for your career. No modeling, etc. No neoclassical economics. On the other side, if you look at what are the important issues, which were the most important issues which received comments, transfer pricing on intangible, it means roughly 55% of the comments. So the main comments are coming on transfer pricing issues by people coming from multinationals and working for multinationals. So they try to influence BEPS, right? If it doesn't work, what can they do? Well, they're going to US political lobbying. There were a really nice paper written in January or February in The Guardian explaining how a lobby group, different 3 or 4 lobby groups were representing Google, Amazon, all the powerful US tech companies were organizing huge lobbying within the US Congress to try to derail BEPS. They do find some Republican allies. Some of the Republicans say they're afraid of the US budget deficit, and they think that BEPS is a good thing because it will bring new tax receipts for the US budget. But most of the Republicans would like to derail the process, and receiving a huge pressure from big US multinational, especially US tech multinationals. So we know that Barack Obama, we know that IRS for the moment is really committed to put BEPS in place, but we will have presidential elections, and I don't know which part of BEPS will be really in place before the Republicans may eventually. It's not, we don't know yet who is going to win, but if the Republican candidates win, we'll have both the administration and the Congress taken by the Republicans, and maybe it could be a huge political problem for this fight against tax aggression from multinational. And at last, the third strategy, followed by multinationals. I don't know if you've seen this paper coming from The Economics last December. They asked 2 people to look at the number of subsidiaries located in tax havens listed by multinational companies. And what you see there is when companies with 10 or more subsidiaries in tax havens disclose at least 50% fewer subsidiaries in tax haven than the year before. You look at 2005, it's very small. You look at 2012, it's more than 250 companies. Google, for example, in 2009 said that they had 100 subsidiaries in tax havens. Now, if you go to Google websites and you look for the listed companies, they've got 2 subsidiaries in tax haven. If you're very optimistic, you say that it's a huge move to transparency, and then they've closed it. If you're pessimistic, you think of something else. And we all think of something else. That's why we're here. So be careful, even if BEPS is working, and we need some other supplementary conditions. And even if we fight for these supplementary conditions, the multinationals want us let's go as far as we want. They will fight back. Thank you, Pierre.